I'll get started because there's a sort of a little bit of introduction before. I haven't what I haven't done today is a kind of like a general introduction about like Hub Ocean or anything like that because I'm kind of hoping that most people on this call are a little bit familiar with who we are and what we're doing. But I'll just sort of just quickly introduce that and say like, yeah, so I'm Tom Red. I think I see from the chat that I've met a lot of you before, which is really nice. Good to see you again. I work for Hub Ocean as the Ocean Governance Manager. Hub Ocean is a foundation based in Norway that's creating something called the Ocean Data Platform, which is a cloud-based geospatial platform for ingesting data and working with data in a workspace environment. So today is the kind of like the final webinar that we're going to be doing for the sort of preparation for the Iliad Hackathon next week. But I think even if you're not participating in that, then I hope you get something out of today. It is still possible to register for that event. There will be options for joining virtually, but if you want to join in Oslo, it's still very possible, and we can put a link in the chat towards the end. So today is, as I say, it's going to be a very like hands-on crash course. What I've done in advance of this meeting is to grant everybody who registered for the webinar up to about 1 o'clock today access rights to Ocean Data Platform. And in the email that I sent, you should be able to have registered for the platform. So if anybody is sort of wanting to play along and do the kind of crash course, then you can do that. So you just have to make sure you're registered, and then you should have access to the platform. What we're going to be doing today is getting to know the 4 key features of Ocean Data Platform, and then also giving everybody the opportunity to kind of test those features, and then ask some questions, and yeah, have a little bit of a kind of a backwards and forwards. So to begin with, I'm just going to introduce the 4 key features. They are what I'll do is kind of like we're going to do each. We'll do this is a little. I've done this internally, this kind of crash course before. This is the first time I do it publicly, so bear with me if there's a little bit of rustiness to it. What I'm going to do is just give a very high level introduction and overview of what each of these features are, and in the next section, I'll show you how it works on Ocean Data Platform, and then I'll let you guys also do that yourselves. So the first feature is a catalog of unique ocean data sets. So one of the things that we have on when you first land on the home screen of ODP is a catalog. And in there is data that we have ingested ourselves. That's come from different sources. It could be from open repositories like eModNet, but it could also be from kind of like files that we've kind of unlocked, we call it internally, from like companies like PGS or Aker BioMarine. So we have quite a strong focus on like opening up industrial data for the ocean, and then making it available. So that's the kind of the catalog. It looks like this. And what I'll do now is just a very quick demo. So what I'm going to do is, and the exercise that happens next is and this doesn't work so well on Zoom, so I'll probably switch between the two. We're going to log into the Ocean Data Platform, find a ODP catalog that contains marine mammal data, and then just download that data as a CSV file and open it in Excel. So it's like probably the simplest way that you can get data out of ODP. But it's a good sort of like starting exercise and should be fairly accessible to everybody. We're going to go with a little bit increasing complexity throughout this kind of process. So now I need to change my screen, new share, and we go to I think it's this one. Yeah. So can probably hopefully see my browser now. So if you land on Hub Ocean's webpage, you go to which is hubocean.earth. You can go to login. I'll already be logged in, but if you're not, just log in. Hopefully you're all registered, so you'll be able to do that. To look at the catalog, it's here. So I'll probably just do a very quick run through of how the catalog works. So these are sort of just collections of data sets. So as I mentioned before, we do have things like eModNet. So you can search for like eModNet human activities. This is a collection of all of the eModNet human activities data. You can look at, I don't know, let's take, well, just do the aggregate. stuff like this. So you can just have a look at all of the metadata. Important for later is you can grab the UUID for the data, which is the how you would access it through our APIs. But you can also just go ahead and just like download or export a CSV of this, and this is specifically tabular data. When you go back, so let's look at the marine mammal. I'll probably spell mammal wrong or something like that, but I'll just search for PGS because that's how I know how I do it. So within PGS, we have like two different types of data sets you'll see in this catalog. So we one have raw and the other is tabular. So raw is anything that can be a table like an XLS or a CSV file. Could also be a PDF, but it could also be a NetCDF file or yeah, basically any file, video, whatever. So you can again like you can download on the right here. You can see like a download of an individual raw data set. But then if you go into the tabular, you're able to sort of like, yeah, just download the whole table. The reason we have kind of like this extra kind of like level on top of the raw, which is the tabular, it means that you when we come to do like more complex stuff within the workspace, you can do some querying on that. So hopefully my talking and waffling has given everybody enough time to like log in and check. I'm just going to check the chat because I see that there probably are some questions. Okay. I Thanks for sharing. What I'm going to say is, yeah, thanks. That's okay. Okay, this is interesting that you got this error. We had that before, but it was fixed. Yeah. So Gerald and Ava, we did have this error before. I need to check why that came through. Probably going to be. I'm just going to check to see if I can ask somebody to fix this as we running this. Part of the reason for doing this webinar is also to test how this works and how it doesn't work. With a user that was yeah, okay. So we're probably going to have a bit of a problem for everybody. This is kind of good to know that you're all getting this error because then I'll need to fix that. I'm probably not going to be able to fix this for everybody today. But Benedict, could you just like comment in the chat if because you had this error before, but we fixed it. Is it still fixed for you?
Yes, there's no problem. I have no
Okay.
idea what you did, but it worked great.
Okay. Yeah, it's a permissions issue. I guess what I'll do is I'll get that fixed for the hackathon itself for everybody. What's interesting is Ava and Gerald, I think that should have been fixed for you because we already provisioned you workspaces, so that is strange that that doesn't work. That's not good. Okay, I think I'm just going to go ahead and carry on, unfortunately, for those people that got that failure, because I think the time it's going to take me to fix that is going to be too long for the webinar today. So you'll just have to follow along, unfortunately, and see what we're doing. But you can once we finish this webinar and it's recorded, what I'll do is I'll just try and get that fixed for everybody so that we're sure it works, and you can kind of go back and follow along what we're doing. Okay. Right. In that case, I mean, this is, yeah, running a live demo is all good fun, isn't it? So right, what I'm going to do now is just switch back to the presentation and take you through to the next step of what we're doing on the platform. So, right. So those who do have access, were you able to get into the catalog and find some data and download it as a CSV? Hopefully the answer is yes.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Then I would suggest then we move on. So that's the kind of that's the very basic way of accessing data. The next one is I kind of alluded to it in the presentation, and that's this like grabbing that data programmatically using the APIs. And so for that, we're going to need the UUID. And on the next step, what we're going to do is we're going to open up a workspace. We're going to start a server. I would suggest probably small is sufficient for this exercise. It also doesn't stress our systems too much. Probably minimal is also enough as well, but I always go for small. And what we're going to do this time is we're going to go to the catalog. We're going to find the UDI for the data, the tabular data for marine mammals. Then use and then we're going to open a workspace and we're going to upload two files that you all should have received already. In fact, you can probably upload all of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to upload this ODP workspace demo tools. We're also going to upload the geospatial querying Python notebook. And then what this notebook is going to do is allow us to query that tabular data set. So there's like, I'll run you through what it looks like, but it means that we're going to query a subset of that data. And that's kind of like one of the reasons we implemented this tabular API is so that you can do like querying based on geography or like specific filters within the data set. So again, I will stop sharing and share my screen, which is here. Yeah. So going back to the dashboard, we're going to enter a workspace. And for me, hopefully it's already loaded up. But for you guys, just make sure you select an appropriate one. As I say, small is probably enough. You can create a new, I don't know, probably a lot of you are familiar with Jupyter Notebook environments, but if you're not, on the left here, this is a kind of like a file structure. You can create a new folder, so like yeah, call it Iliad or whatever. And then from there, you can just drag and drop or in fact upload your files here, and you can put all of your files that you needed to run these demos today in there. In my case, I've created a Crash Course and Iliad Hackathon one. So as I say, the first one we're going to run is the one called PGS Geospatial Data. So for that, I'm going to open that. I'll run you through what the notebook is doing, just to sort of get people familiar with how the ODP API works. So we're going to grab a couple of libraries that we need. One is two ODP specific libraries. These are already pre-installed in the notebooks. And then we're going to initiate the client, which is going to allow you to connect to the API. And then what we're going to do is we're going to query some data from PGS. So in this case, we're actually going to be doing three data sets and these are all preloaded, so you don't need to do this strictly speaking. But what you can do is just with this map, just zoom into an area of interest. I don't know, I'm just going to do a little bit off the coast of Brazil because that's where the data is. So just make a little box here and complete the box. Oop. Yep. And then once we've got that, we can query that data. So we're going to be querying, I'll just show you what we're going to be querying just so that you can see. So within the PGS dataset, we have three tabular files. We've got marine turtle observations, ADCP current measurements, and CTD profiles. And we're going to be querying all three of those and doing some visualizations on that data. So the first one, we're just going to get some identifiers. So this is the unique ID, which is in the catalog here. So if you go into this one, it's just on the right here. So there you can grab the unique identifier. And then just you can run the script to get the sort of the metadata display of the data set. And then what we're going to do is we're going to be requesting that data from the ODP API. And in this case, we're going to be doing the querying based on that map above. So you're just going to run these, and that might take a little bit of time to run. And then whilst that does run, what I'll do is just sort of talk a little bit about what happens next. So then in the next boxes, we're just going to be visualizing that data on PyDeck. So here you can kind of like just zoom in, and I've already run this script, so you know you can always like run this as well, and it might take a little bit of time. But you can kind of see here like where the data is. You can get like some details about that data, what's in that data set. I think this one is this is the purple is the marine and turtles. The yellow is, I think, I don't know if that's CTD possibly or ADCP, one or the other. And then the blue is the other one. Frankly, I'm more interested in the marine mammals for myself, but that's it. And then, of course, you can just create data frames from that data and work with that as you normally would do in a Jupyter environment. And then further down, we've got this plotting the CTD data on a graph. Again, sort of something quite familiar in for people working in Jupyter Notebook environments. So that's kind of the process. What we've done here is just accessing the ODP APIs and pulling data into the notebook environment and doing some kind of like simple OQS queries on it, which is like in this bit here, and then visualizing the sort of the resulting data. So that's the kind of the exercise that we've done here. It might have, it looks like I'm still running that query, so it may have maybe taken quite a bit of time for other people, but hopefully like so far following along and clear. Whilst that kind of like loads for everybody, is there any questions so far?
So I have a question, Tom, that assumes that you know the UUID, sorry if the
Yeah,
letters are wrong, beforehand.
yeah,
But if you have then that's really per file, right?
yeah. It's per file.
Okay. And so then if you have just the one of the data set, then you can also from the Python script know all the names of the files to select it from there.
Yeah, you can do that. I think we have another script that it describes how to do that. So you can query the catalog within the notebook environment and you could get a list of all of the resources. I think that probably would be, I personally would find that to be a little bit too much because you get a long list of things. So the way that I tend to work is by looking in the catalog and seeing what's there and then like getting the like yeah, so like I don't know, if I was also interested in port locations, then I can get my port location data set here and I can get the UUID from here and just copy it and put it into the notebook environment. What I'll come on to later is like the ability to combine that with your own data. So this is all data that we've published in our catalog, but one of the next like sections is like how to upload your own data and then with the same methodology, pulling that data into the notebook environment. In fact, what I might do is go on to, well, I can probably just explain that now. Let me just check to see that wasn't, yeah, actually that was my next section. So, okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. Again, hopefully that you, okay, I see that somebody's commented that they haven't received their registration. Yeah, so there was a cutoff for me that was like 1 o'clock today. So if you didn't receive an email inviting you to join, then Anthony, then that's why. But for the Iliad hackathon, we have a list of like people that have registered, and we'll make sure that everybody has been whitelisted. So at the moment we're in a public beta, so not everybody is able to just sign up and join. So we have to whitelist people, but that's kind of the point of this hackathon, that we get a list of people that we're able to whitelist. Okay, so gonna reshare my screen now. In fact, I'm just gonna go straight into back into the platform. So as I say, like that's kind of grabbing data from your own from our catalog that we've kind of put in there. You can also upload your own data, and it works in a very similar way. I've got a lot in there because I use it a lot for my own messing around. But when you come here, this would normally be blank. And what you can do is you can create in the same structure, you can create data collections, and then within a data collection, you can add files. At the moment, we're only enabling raw upload through the front end, but you can upload tabular files through the workspace environment, and we will have a notebook working for that next week for anybody that wants to use it. Actually, it would be good if people write in the chat if there's an interest in having a notebook for uploading tabular data, because it's a little bit more complicated, and I do have a working example, but it might be something that we would want to spend some time on, like in the hackathon, like showing people how to do it, because there's a few extra steps than like raw stuff. But for creating a data collection in the front end, you can just do test or Iliad or whatever. That's then created a collection, and then you can add in all of your metadata and stuff like this. And then you can add in, this is a data set, and this then sits within in that collection. And then as I say, like t at the moment, tabular wouldn't work, but files is just in the raw storage, so you can just go here and I don't know, you can ingest anything. So like I can even, in fact, ingest. No, I don't have it up there. You could ingest anything, and that would like put it in there. I might just try and find my Obis example of that. Um, yeah, so like there we go. I've just uploaded a data set, a CSV of a subset of Obis data, and that's now uploaded. And there we go. And then when you go back to the data collection, you can see previewing that in the catalog. Oh, no, this one, yeah. So you click on the data set, and you can download it there, or click on preview in the data set and get the UUID for that. So that would then be able to pull that into the workspace environment. And that's how you would upload my data. As I say, if there's interest in doing the tabular upload, then let me know. We'll also have an example notebook of how to upload raw data through the workspace environment, because that's a little bit easier if you're working with a lot of files. Any questions?
Tom, I did that for my own data set.
Yep.
So I made a catalog and different data set. But if I click on the preview in data catalog,
Mhm.
then I don't see the data set. If it's
Okay.
not in the preview, then I see them, and I
Mhm.
can have the ID for the data sets and the files in it. But from the catalog, it says no data sets.
Okay. When you uploaded it, did you click when, because like here, like when I uploaded it, there was like a thing that required me to click upload. Did you click on
That
that
worked.
upload?
That worked
Yeah.
completely
Right.
fine. And in
Yeah.
each data set, I can see the data.
Mhm.
But it's on the preview in
In
yeah,
this
this
one.
one.
Yeah.
Then yeah, here it says well, not in the dataset, but in the catalog. Then it says
Yeah.
no dataset present.
Okay. If you go into the so like where's my test gone? So if you go from the data collection, then you go into the data set here, and then you try previewing it in the data set, would that work? That should work.
I don't remember exactly. I
Okay.
find a way to go from the platform to the data,
Uh-huh.
but
Okay.
not
That's
from the preview, I think.
okay. I what I would do is yeah.
I don't need it
Yeah.
for next week. It was more,
No,
yeah,
that
but I don't
but
know
that's
why
something
it's like this.
we should that's something that should work. I maybe I'll take that offline with you and we can figure out how to
Yeah,
do that, but that
sure.
should work. Um yeah. Okay. Um okay, right. Okay, so that's like uploading your own data. And then, as I say, like once it's in your side, then it's only accessible to you and not publicly available on the catalog. But you're still able to, in your workspace environment, bring that data together and combine it with data that's in the catalog. So you can work with it there. Um, I guess the sort of the benefit of like raw storage there is that you kind of like just have it in our storage controller. It should be like what you can access it. The benefit of having it as tabular means that you can then do the querying on it and things like that. But I think like I mostly use the workspace. So what I'll make sure is we're actually working on a repo for the Iliad hackathon for next week, which would have like some example notebooks. So I saw one of the questions in the chat of like that somebody would need to be able to export their file directly from the workspace. And that should be fine. We'll just have a script that you can modify and use to create a new data collection and then post your data into the collection as a data set. So that's yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, okay. Right then, I'm going to go back to my oh yeah. So then I think the final aspect of yeah, so the final one is just to show like like how you could combine also like data that you just upload directly into the workspace. Should have that one. And that would be like So you can also just put like, as I say, this is a Jupyter Notebook environment. So again, you can like store files like in Jupyter Notebooks. And in this example that we show here, you're going to be doing the querying from ODP API. In this case, we're querying the PGS data on marine mammals, and we're specifically asking for humpback whales. And I think we're just yeah, in this one we just grab only records which show humpback whales. And then what I've done is we've got this obis CSV file that I created. It took me quite a long time to export that from obis, so I would just encourage you to use this file as a test and not to do that in practice. But you can again like upload that CSV and then just read it straight into the Jupyter notebook and plot it together with the yeah, PGS and OBIS data just to see like where there are. In this case, it was quite nice to show that the PGS data supplemented OBIS, and actually PGS now implementing a Darwin call standard so that their data can get fed straight into GBIF and OBIS. And that was quite a nice result for us because that's what we try and do. So those are the sort of four features that I wanted to show today. I think basically like messages, like you can kind of work with the platform in many different ways. And you can yeah, store your own data in there, and that's any type of ocean data, and then bring it into a Jupyter Notebook environment and work with it there. The tabular data is something that we kind of like have developed to be a little bit more performant in terms of like being able to query and things like that. So that's kind of one of the things that we want to test, and we're looking for use cases of testing that within the Iliad hackathon. So very happy if people have examples that they wanted to share with that. Um, Now, I know that there were some other questions of like how you can access data from other platforms and things like that outside of ODP. And in most cases, what I would suggest is just going to the APIs of those other data platforms and just writing a script that would allow you to import data into the workspaces. And then if you want it to be stored in ODP, you can do that through the catalog in my data. And that way you can then just call it straight from the ODP API. Good. Okay, that was my most of my presentation actually. I think that went a lot faster than I thought it would do. Yeah. Yeah, so that was me. Are there any questions? I think probably because people didn't get access today, that was a bit of a shame that we weren't able to give everybody the ability to work through this on the go. But were there any questions? Benedict?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I was wondering, so from the platform, I was able to add my data, but limited metadata,
Mhm.
which means that then if I want to filter it from the API, I don't have much to do. So
Okay.
I was wondering how you can do that, if then it's better to add metadata directly from Python, or what's the
What
procedure?
what file type was that?
Just raw files, but
Okay.
each file, for example, there are some with dates and location.
Mhm.
So then I would like in the ones that you have in your own catalog, then it's very nice. You can see the location on the
Mhm.
globe and things,
Mhm.
but that I could not see how to put that information on the platform.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe it's possible on Python, but I did not see how.
Yeah, so I think what I will do is ask our data team to create a script that shows the expanded like metadata fields from the notebook. So like in principle, everything that you see in the front end of our catalog is replicable in my data because it's the same system. So I'll just need to make sure that we have an example notebook where you can see where you would need to enter that metadata. And because then you'll be able to do like replicate that kind of same functionality. And then presumably, I think then you're able to query on like that metadata as well. Um, but it's tricky. But also, yeah. So that's the short answer. Um, I just need to add that file.
Nice. Yeah, I think all the things that I try to do, if I had an example, it would be very easy.
Yep. Okay.
Um,
Yep.
so, but
Well,
I don't want to bother everybody with my
no,
personal
look,
problems.
like I wanted this to be a kind of like a working session. So this it's absolutely fine that you ask. It's really good that you ask those kinds of questions because that's exactly the kind of feedback that I needed to get today to like guide our tech team to prepare for the hackathon. So yeah, thanks for that. I'll take that as a note and yeah.
Thanks.
I saw Arna that you kind of like put your microphone down, indicating that you wanted to talk.
Yes, one question related to connecting to external systems, and in our case, in particular, to Edito,
Mhm.
which we now have chosen a stack catalog architecture, so the special temporal asset catalog, and also to represent files in so-called ARCO formats, analysis ready cloud optimized, so with examples such as ZAR or Parquet, or
Mhm.
GeoZAR and GeoParquet. They also have some converters from that CDF to ZAR.
Mhm.
So I know that you in the previous hackathon with ODP also worked with Stack and these ARCO files with the Microsoft Planetary computer. So
Yeah.
you have mechanisms to access and use such files. Could you say something about that? Because that would also be applicable to access files in this
Yeah.
editor format.
Sure. I kind of like was going to prepare a little bit for that and then ran out of time today. But what I was going to do is just go through, I think, like what I understand our process for doing that was. So you're right. The planetary computer has is it uses Stack catalog. What I'll do is try and do something like on the fly, but I might not run the notebooks. You can like if you in the planetary computer, what's really nice is you can get quite often you can get like example notebooks here where you can just download the Jupyter Notebook file, and then you could actually just like upload that directly into the workspace and then run that through the workspace on ODP. I believe then what we would then do, and this is something that I need to check, is we could then take like for example in this case would be like the netcdf file, and then we could create a collection and data set within ODP and save that netcdf file into ODP as well. Um, I don't know exactly how, and I have to look back at how they did that in the previous hackathon. I think that they didn't really do too much in the way of like putting that data on ODP. So actually they only like just brought it in using the workspaces. But that's certainly possible, especially when there's an example notebook. That's pretty easy to get going because you can just get going with that. And I think that's what the way that I would suggest doing it is to find like an example notebook or like write something that just pulls like the data from the stack catalog directly into the workspaces, and then you can work with it there.
Yeah, no, it's good to at least explore these strategies. So one is to get access to the data, which is essentially is all of the IMODNet data and the CMEMS, the Copernicus Marine Services data, and more data will be added there in the future. But there is also the other way around. If we have
Mm.
data that has been explored in the ODP platform, some of that data might be relevant to export again to the Edito platform, which would require, of course, a right interface and this create license at Edito. This will become available first in October, I think. But it's relevant in the broader context of Iliad that you're all familiar with Edito Infra and the Edito Model Lab and the respective platforms. I put that in the chat. I'll do it to everyone here. Dive.edito.eu. We might not go in all on this because this platform will be more generally available first in October. So that might be a next step, and there will be some separate hackathon activities related to this. So this can be a first step, but it's also relevant, and some would maybe in various contexts already have looked into that. So here is at least a link to that platform, and interoperability between these platforms is something we also will be looking at and discussing. We have two level of interoperability. I will call this more technical interoperability because it's about connecting and transferring files and models and be able to execute things both places. But there's also the semantic interoperability, and that's where we are looking at ontologies and semantic mapping. Iliad has the ocean information model, so there will be some support for that also. That will present before the hackathon, probably with a webinar on Tuesday. Francisco Martin Recuerda, who is on the call, will, together with some colleagues, present on that. So you will get also information on this, which is basically on tools and methods to make it more easy to work with semantic definitions and semantic representations, which of course has its underlying framework of technology that's somewhat sometimes can be a little complex to work with, but there are also some tool support to make this easier and simpler that will be presented in this webinar on Tuesday. And then we will subsequently put it into the context of these platforms.
Yeah.
But these are some of the context, so we will come
yeah.
back to it, but
And
it's
just
not the main. Yeah.
and Anna, probably for your benefit, I got a couple of slides on like how yeah. So I think one of the things I think would be quite nice out of as a result of this hackathon is to sort of like have some actual data that we would want to sort of then feed into Edito, for example, because then we have like a working example that we can do. Just to sort of like to explain a little bit the kind of like the what Stack looks like to everyone. And I must admit, I'm really not an expert. Well, no, I shouldn't even say I'm not an expert. I have very little knowledge of what Stack is. But just to sort of like show how the Stack looks like and how that compares to like our catalog. Stack is organized into catalogs, which contains collections, and then within the collections, it contains items. I can't see the rest of my screen. And yeah, so you have items within collections and dot, dot, dot. And then looking at how that kind of maps onto the ODP format. So the Stack catalog and the collection kind of look very similar to our data collections. And then we have items, our data sets are effectively what items are within a Stack catalog. So there is a kind of like a kind of high level mapping that we've already done, Arna, so we can think about how that could probably work technically. But yeah, as I say, good that we'd have something practical to go on to do that.
Very good. And then since you asked about some data as an example, we will have some wavy drifters in the Oslofjord. Put in the chat the link to the wavy drifters website. So these are drifters that collect position and temperature and other things in the Oslofjord. We have other places on the Mediterranean and other places in the world too. But that's an example of a streaming data set from these drifters with data representations that we could both upload in ODP first, and maybe also see as an example to have in Edito also. Just as a concrete example, which is relevant to what we do next week, and as we have this operational and streaming now.
I see there's a hand raised from Kaori.
Yes. So yeah, it's good to have this hands-on experience and how to use the data sets and them. But how are they connected to the Iliad data lake? Because is it centralized in like a single Iliad data lake, or are there, let's say, distributed?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And thank you for asking that. So I don't know if you've joined other Iliad webinars before, or how familiar you are with the sort of the Iliad architecture. The Iliad is sort of developing a federated approach to digital twins of the ocean. So as a result, there isn't one singular data lake. One of the things that we work on a lot in the project is interoperability between different data lakes and different digital twins. And so ODP is like one kind of call it a data lake if you want. Kind of data platform, I guess there's sort of like lots of different terminologies. But there are other sort of data repositories and data lakes within the Iliad project. And so one of the things that we try and do is figure out like how those can connect together and how those can connect into other things that aren't within Iliad. And that's kind of like what Anna was talking about with the connection with Edito. So a lot of the work that we've been doing so far on the project around like semantic harmonization, common standards for APIs, things like this, are all trying to sort of answer that question of allowing sort of like people to choose different platforms and services that suit their needs, and then connect that with other sort of platforms and services that they might want to use in different times, and also sort of be able to move things across as easily as possible. So that's kind of the Iliad approach, isn't to create like one data lake per se, but to sort of create the framework for being able to sort of like create many data lakes that are able to talk to each other.
Yeah. So yeah, that makes sense. That why I wanted to ask to stop. Then that would be
Yeah.
very
You're breaking up, Kari, a little bit. But so I couldn't hear that last.
Sorry, my
Oh,
microphone was away. Yeah,
there we
I
go.
didn't mute.
That's
Yeah.
much better.
That's
Yeah,
better.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so yeah, that makes sense that you're using Stack to map, yeah, the ODP, because I was reading through the documentation and you had these schemas, right? Like set up. So I was going to ask what kind of metadata are used, but yeah, it's starting to be more yeah, clear. Yeah,
yeah.
thank you.
That's okay. And just to be clear that we don't use Stack as our catalog, because we did a review of sort of different technologies and decided that that wasn't what we wanted to use for our platform. And that's kind of like, I guess, one of the philosophies of Iliad as well, is that there are different benefits of using Stack versus other metadata formats. And like, I'm not the best person to answer that question of why we chose what we did, but our solution architect had a very good reason for doing that. And it kind of fits the use cases that we've identified from our users previously. So that's why. But now, you know, that's something that we'll be looking at doing, is creating that interoperability between like what we're doing and what Edito is doing. And that's I think that will come probably after this Iliad hackathon. So the hackathon is kind of like a good starting point to sort of have some data on ODP that we could then look at creating some interoperability. We also do a lot, just to say, we also work quite closely with Ocean Info Hub, which is a UN Decade program to try and harmonize ocean data catalogs. And so one of the things that we have in our work stream at the moment is both representing data from Ocean Info Hub in our catalog, and then representing our catalog in Ocean Info Hub. So that's something that we would eventually support. Another feature, I mean, and what I've tried very hard not to do in the webinar today is to talk about like features that we have on our roadmap intentionally, because I didn't want to sort of like, I wanted to focus on things that people can do now. But some of the things that we do have like in the sort of our features roadmap is the ability for users to publish their own data into the catalog, so that if you put data into ODP, then you can also share it with the world, and also share it with like your collaborators. But just wanted to be clear that that's not possible at the moment. But it's something that obviously we want to be able to do. We can manually do that. We can kind of like, because effectively there's no difference between data that's in your side and the catalog. Like we can manually click a button that adds it to the catalog, but for quality control purposes, we don't currently like allow that as a feature for users to do.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But maybe there's some, yeah, again, like maybe there's something that comes out of this Iliad hackathon that we can like use that as an example of like somebody creating their own data set on ODP and then publishing it in the catalog.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Carrie, I haven't seen your name anywhere in the hackathon so far, but sounds like you're involved.
Yeah, it's just that yeah, I found out about, like what's happening this week.
Okay,
I'm back to work this week, so I will talk to, yeah, Arne, yeah, after
okay,
this workshop,
great.
this webinar. Yeah.
Great. Well, it's good. It's good. As I say, it's nice to see some people who have already been here before, and good to see new people as well. Are there any other questions? Mm, Seems not to be the case. As I say, I very much apologize for those of you who got the authorization failure error. I will have to revert back to our technical team to see why that was, but that will be something that will be fixed for the hackathon itself, and something that I think hopefully should even be fixed today. So what I'll do is once that's resolved, I'll send a new email out to everybody to say that you should have access. And if you do have any more issues, please just contact me, and I can find the right person to solve that problem. Usually gets resolved fairly quickly once we know about it. And as well, I'll send out some resources once we've created a repo for the hackathon that has some example notebooks of, for example, how to upload raw data. That sounds like something that's going to be particularly useful. And all of the files that I've shared today will be in that repo, I think. And so that will be some things to get going with using ODP.
Yeah. Tom, I see you see in the chat, Edmund is asking for some examples of filling in template. And Edmund, if you are not yet on Discord, please log on to that. Well, we can provide a link if you haven't, an invite if you haven't, because we will provide then more information, as we are daily now. And so that you can find it there. But it's important for us to get you on Discord, and you will see there on Discord that you will have individual teams. And some for some who are not using their full name, please indicate which team you belong to, so I can put you in the right in the right group. But yeah, so an example of a filled out template, you see, Tom, is what Edmund is asking for.
Okay. Yep. Okay. That's okay, that's fine. I think we might have that, Benta, but I'll just have to check. We can check that offline as well.
Yeah, and then put it on Discord so that anybody else can also easily find it. I will create a channel called resources, and then we can put various resources on that channel.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Well, I think then if there aren't any more questions, I'll say thank you. As say, we have a few more webinars now planned early next week, and I think that's all of them, Benta. So you'll all receive those invites. Other than that, if you're not registered already for the hackathon itself, please do. Hopefully you have the registration link. If not, Benta, maybe you have it to hand and you can just drop it in the chat quickly. If maybe I'll give you a few seconds to do that, and then I'll close the webinar. Yeah.
Find that.
Can do that. Were there any actually? So before we close, then, since we have a few minutes left, are there any general questions about the Iliad hackathon that people might have?
Hi, Tom.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Tom. I was just going to ask, I presume there'll be a recording put up of after this so we can follow along once we get access.
Yeah, yeah. And Ava, just or Benedict, I'm just going to mute you a second. Ava, for your case, it might be a little bit different because you have you should have that access with the GPU environment, and that will look a little bit different for you. So I'll just follow up maybe directly with Thomas about how that's going to look like. But it's strange that you would have had that error because I think he kind of gave you permissions separately to this process. So maybe I've done something that's kind of messed that up. So yeah, bear with me and I'll try and ask him to fix that.
No problem. Thanks.
No worries.
Tom, I don't find that registration file, do I?
It's a link, web link.
Yeah.
I can also get it.
Oh yeah, I found it. I found it.
Okay.
For the online, at least. No, sorry, for the on-site. This one, I think.
I saw a question from, I think, Benedict, you had unmuted yourself before we go to Luri, but maybe not.
Yes, sorry, I was lost in my windows. On the planning of the hackathon, there's something in the evening that it said register in advance.
Yep.
Do we need to register in addition to?
No, it would have been on the form that Bent has just shared. If you fill that form in again, it doesn't matter. I just delete duplicates. So just make sure that that's just in there. But there's a thing at the bottom that says like I'm registered for the evening event. By the way, for those attending, it's a cruise on the Oslo fjord with dinner, and it's on an electric boat. So it's quite exciting. I've been told.
Okay, then I'll send my thing again to be
Great.
sure.
Luri, I see you have your hand up.
Hi. Sorry. I was going to ask about my registration to the hackathon. I tried to register it to Bente's group, and I didn't receive. Was on Monday, and I didn't receive any position about that. So I don't know.
Okay, was that the form that Bente just shared?
I think so. Let me see.
If you just double check, because I don't remember seeing your name on that registration document.
No, it wasn't this one.
Okay.
It wasn't this one.
It was a Discord. Was it an invite to Discord or?
No, it was a previous link that I had that Tom sent me. But I can do this one.
Yeah. Great, that would be good because that's the form that I'm using to track people registering for the hackathon. So if you just fill in your details there, then I'll send a confirmation and things like that out to you there.
Okay.
I don't find the full one. There are so many emails. I don't have the to sign up for other than the physical event here, Tom.
Actually, I have another question about this. For all the groups, because I'm not participating physically, I'm going to be online, and I'm not sure if all the groups can accommodate this kind of participation.
Not sure. Which team are you part of a team already?
Yeah, I was going to do the registration for the digital twin of the Oslo fjord.
Yeah. What I would suggest is actually you could speak to Bente, who's here in the chat. Bente, maybe you two could talk directly about how that collaboration could work because Bente's heavily involved in that team. So yeah, it's going to work a little bit differently for each team because they're kind of like self-organized. So
okay.
But as much as possible, we're going to sort of make virtual participate. We're going to facilitate virtual participation. So there, once you've signed up, you'll get the agenda, and there'll be certain sections within the agenda that we're going to stream and allow like virtual participants to participate as well. The actual hacking sessions themselves, that's going to be a little bit more kind of like directly working within teams. But that's why we're encouraging everybody to join Discord because for each team, we've created a Discord channel so that people can kind of like work and chat in there. Believe it's possible to do video calls within Discord, but I've never tested that myself. But the teams, I think, can also like create their own sort of Zoom or team meetings.
Yeah. So Yuri, what I need from you is simply the email, and then we will see. And if you're registered for the hackathon, I need your email, so you get an invite to Discord, and I will put you on the email list of the Oslo Fjord team as well. And so we will get the information. So I will include you in the email list. And we have a working space on Google as well, right, Arne? We do it like this.
Yep, we can do that. Sounds good.
I'm gonna write my email in the chat. Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Hi, Tom.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, James.
How are you doing?
Good.
just regarding the Teams and the Discord, we were looking for a communication tool earlier this week, and we didn't see you sent out an email saying the teams have been created, but then I couldn't see any team channel.
Okay.
So I just wondered, is that because we haven't been added to a channel, or should we be seeing the teams by now?
Oh, what happened to me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, James. Now I see your name. You were asking. Yeah. So I was wondering which one of the teams would you like to join?
I'm working with Marine Institute Sea Llama team. Marine Institute.
Oh, the Sea Llama. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I will include you in that group on Discord. It's you will find Sea Llama on Discord now as a separate channel there.
Okay, I'm just refreshing, but thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So good. I was wondering that. I was going to ask. There are several, so I don't know who all of those who are registered on Discord belong. So some of them I know, and some of them I don't. So I need to figure that out. So I thank you for this, James.
Good. All right. I think unless there are any other questions, I'll close the webinar now. So this will be recorded, and we'll make this available as we do with all of the other webinars for the Iliad Hackathon as a resource package. I'd really encourage you to look back at the previous webinars as well if you're interested in looking at different technical components or different best practices. There are some very good webinars, and there will be a few more that will be good preparations for the hackathon. So with that, I'll say thank you very much for joining today, and see those of you who are coming to Oslo next week, and those participating virtually, we'll see you virtually as well next week as well. So great, thanks for joining. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
So we'll talk soon in the meeting a few minutes. We'll just
You give me. I'm gonna leave the office now, and so I'll rejoin on Teams if that's okay.
yeah. So do in a few minutes.
Good.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
Seems good.
So,
Bye.
bye.